when and how a Christian who has come to believe in God's sovereignty should leave a church that does not teach the same?
Ooh, okay. That's a big one. Whatever answer you end up with, make it your goal that if you do end up leaving a fellowship, that you do so leaking grace everywhere.
Yeah.
The last thing that anybody needs are the fire-breathing, you're going to hell type, cage stage Calvinist people, further turning off everybody to any kind of openness to consider what the Bible really teaches about who God is. Because anybody who's come to understand this knows what I mean. It is a soul-crushing thing to realize that God is God and I am not. And he can do with me as he pleases, and yet he has been gracious to me, and he set his grace upon me in eternity. I mean, that should so destroy any kind of desire for vengeance or proving myself right or anything else that, unfortunately, sometimes you do find yourself in the position where you cannot remain. And obviously, if there are options in your area where there are faithful churches that would be consistent with your belief, what you want to do is you want to sit down with the elders, you want to explain to them where you're coming from, do so very graciously, have a meaningful conversation. If you can't come to an understanding, a lot of times what you'll hear is someone say, well, I pretty much agree with what you're saying. We just don't really emphasize that from the pulpit or something like that. And you find interesting things like that. But once or it can be situations like, we don't want you around here. And they usher you out the door. I mean, I've seen every kind of possible mixture of those various attitudes. But once you come to the conclusion that for your spiritual safety, your spiritual worship, the happiness of your family and being able to go to church. For me, I was already involved with apologetics, and so there really needed to be a consistency between what was being preached from the pulpit and what I was saying as I was already starting to speak in churches and things like that. And I didn't just go running out the door, because at the church I was at, sometimes you'd hear the truth stated well, and the next week, not so much. And so I don't think we should be people just running out, rabbiting out the doors, throwing copies of Arthur W. Pink's Sovereignty of God at people's heads as we do so. That's not the way to do it. But once you get to that point, then you need to have a place to be going. Some people are like, oh, I just can't stay here. Well, where are you going to go? I don't know, but I just can't stay here. Well, if God's put you in a position where you can't find that fellowship that's going to have that kind of consistency, you better be careful, because you might grow a whole lot more by exercising patience and emphasizing our commonalities and surviving where you are. You're not going to be growing by becoming a Lone Ranger. That's really dangerous. So you have to have thought ahead, and then bathe any conversation in prayer, and then whatever you do, when you go to the new church, don't give yourself street cred by bad-mouthing where you were. I'm not saying you never mention anything about it. I'm not saying you don't use it as an example or something like that. But I've just seen, again, mainly Calvinists. I've actually seen it go both ways. I've seen people who've left a church and then they just vent their spleen regularly. About just how little those people knew and da-da-da-da-da. That's not a good sign for me. That's not a good sign of maturity or anything like that. So patience is what I would recommend to you. If you find yourself being troubled in going to the church and hearing a regular sub-biblical presentation, you see how it's impacting evangelism or the function of church, things like that, then you need to be seriously praying about where the Lord would have you to be. And if you choose to do that, then Like I said, you really, really want to make sure that when you look back on it, you can say, I couldn't have left on a better basis. I really did pray for that church and was thankful for all the things that I had received there, and I moved on the right way. It's good to be able to say that.